Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 93rd episode of Let's Talk About Market. A lot has happened in this past 2 days. But yeah, if you all had watched this Let's Talk About Market session, you would know that, yesterday's fall was not an outlier, and also many of the people were thinking of tax cut and so on, at least LTCG and so on. But I was saying that I don't know, I had this gut feeling that they might end up increasing some taxes, because anyways they have done GST cut and all those things. So they anyways had a very limited room, uh, and STT cut, while everyone was kind of shocked with that. But this has been the pattern with this government, that they don't give away things easily, and more importantly, if they have uh, done some policy, they don't revert it back, right? So they had increased the long term taxes last year only, and to expect that they would cut this time was a tall task. But anyways, nevertheless, whatever has happened. Some important levels have been hit in Sunday's trading session, uh, which was there due to budget. And what next from here will be very, very important to understand, because now we are at a critical point. And I think, I guess in next 3 to 4 weeks is where we might understand that is there more to come on the downside, or can this be the end? So both the options are very much open, but please try and understand the entire setup, so that you are well prepared for the outcome. Okay. So let me quickly share my screen. If someone can please confirm if you all are able to see my screen properly, and if you all are able to hear me properly. Okay. Please, if you all can confirm quickly, because we have a lot to cover today. If okay, thanks Akash for the confirmation. So first thing is that the Nifty index. So okay, before, let me just. So Nifty index, it almost made a low of somewhere around 25,600 or so, and from there it bounced back. Basically, this was the previous low, and from there nearly it has bounced back. And if you all recall, I was consistently saying that somewhere over here that we are in the middle. Uh, the actionable points would be if we come towards this point, or if we break out above this. Until then we are somewhere in the middle. Uh, so so this had been the stance, and apart from that, I think in Friday's session I had also highlighted the risk of this being a flat pattern, right? If we think of it something like this, and the risk of this correction was there mainly because the swing indicator, which has actually worked like magic this time. uh, almost every time it does, but it was into that overbought zone, and from there we had got this sharp correction. uh, so yeah, this was not totally out of blue, and going into budget when the trend was down, that is why I clearly mentioned that there is a risk of the downside, and that has kind of played out. But what next is the important thing. uh, so like I told you, this was actually the zone on the downside that I was looking at, as the worst case scenario in the near term, at least. So if you'll notice, if you do the Nifty 500, it has actually hit that level, right? In fact, even if you see mid caps, that has also kind of almost there, almost there. It has hit that. Of course, small cap is a different case altogether. It never made a new high, so that's a different case altogether. But if you see micro cap and mid cap, they nearly hit that level. Nifty missed by 200-300 points. So and plus we have got a good positive daily close today. So what to expect next? basically in the near term we have this small divergence that is there. Okay, and I think that if the daily RMI gets into the bullish mode, at least what you would expect is the RMI to go back to the zero line, in which case there might be a pullback towards these averages. And so that is what the near term expectation will be if the low does not break. Okay, I mean, if the low breaks, then I would suspect that this can end up then happening, that we keep falling without any major pullback, which is what I'm not thinking at this point of time. And the reason why I say that in next 2 to 3 weeks we should be able to get some idea is because when we look at the monthly chart, the Nifty index has touched the 20-month average. Okay. Now this is very, very important to understand, because what is happening is that the Nifty RMI is in sell. So we had discussed in the past that whenever the 20 week has held, the Nifty index had kept rising higher without any major corrections, right? And this has been the case throughout. I mean, after COVID, especially, up move. Then in this correction, 20 week did not break, and then it kept rising higher, right? Again, over here, the correction was towards the 20-month. It did break for 1 month, but after that, it made a good comeback. Now something similar is happening over here. And mind you, if this is gone, if the 20 week is gone, then it opens the room on the downside for the 40-month average. Okay, now that is down all the way to 22,500 sort of level. Okay, so that is why I say that it is now at a make or break zone. So we need to be very, very careful. What my expectation is that maybe somewhere over here we have ended up making a short term bottom. Now whether this is a short term bottom or a medium term bottom, again I'm not sure, but what I would at least expect is a pullback of this entire decline. So in an Elliott wave terms, we call it as a 5 wave decline. So I would expect that somewhere over here we would see a retracement. So now, because of this decline, the 61.8% retracement level has come down to 25,690. Okay, somewhere around that zone. So that could be the retracement that one needs to watch out for. And if the 61.8% is broken decisively on the upside, then we should start thinking if there is a medium term bottom in place or no. Okay, but until then, like I mentioned, you have to be open to the idea as to what happens next. See, one thing is that if I see FI's position in any and every way, it's like max bearish. I mean, this again, this reading that we are seeing in FI for the FI net index futures, I mean, this has been the highest in the entire history. And just to give you a context, if you see the FI's positioning based on the net position, okay, I mean, I am yet okay. So yeah, I think there has been a very sharp increase. I had not actually updated my Excel file yesterday, but I mean, for Sunday I did not update. But when I see this figure, I mean, this is mind-boggling number, because so what we do for the calculation is that we take all the bullish positions and bearish positions for the FIs. Okay, and then we try to come up with this figure. And this sort of extreme you might have never ever seen. I mean, just to give you a context, let me just put a line over here. Okay, and just to show you, this was, I think, around this bottom, and this low was around this bottom, right? Now if you see where the position is currently, it is way below than the previous low. So what is really happening, I am not sure. I mean, these are readings that we have never ever seen, probably for the entire time series that we have. Actually, I'll have to update this data and again see. But of course, we have automated it, so there is zero chance of error over here. But it should be this big. So yeah, I mean, when you see such numbers, I mean, these are crazy numbers. I'm not sure. I mean, how much more short can they go? Uh, so that is why, I mean, I don't know. See, at this point of time, while the market has corrected, broadly you can say that the FIs have been on the right side, right? Now, are they overdoing it, or do they know something that we don't know, or I don't know. I mean, what are they thinking, and why are they, shorting like left, right, and center? I'm not sure, but that's where looking at the price action gives you a lot more information, and that is where the focus should be. Okay, so until 61.8% does not get breached on the upside, you will have this risk constantly playing on our mind, is that will it again so happen that there is a bounce and we sell off? And every time, when the market turns around from important resistance level, you need to be careful. Okay, I mean, that is how it is at this point of time. uh, I mean, the mood is such, frankly, and all that there is so much of uncertainty in the global market as well. I mean, just to give you a sense of it, so this was the Asian market today, right? Hang Seng down 2%, uh, Taiwan down 1%. This, I think, this is Indonesia. Okay, Indonesia down 5%. Uh, I have not put actually Kospi over here. Nikkei had sort of recovered, but even that was down. Yeah, Kospi was down 5%. So there is chaos basically in the global market. So need to keep that backdrop in mind. Okay, so that's where. But just the way the short term things are playing out, I would tend to think that somewhere the bottom low, I mean the budget low, could be the low for the markets in the very near term. So I think in the next 1 to 2 weeks, we might end up expecting a pullback. But as this pullback also happens, need to watch very closely what it does at the averages as well. Okay, uh, so breaking above the 40-day average in the near term is important for any sustainable pullback. And once the 40-day breaks on the upside, then daily averages is what we'll see on the upside. And one of the reasons why I am thinking of just a short term bottom is because when we see the call minus put histogram, that had almost gone above 5 lakh, which was, I mean, which historically has been extreme. And within a day or two we have ended up getting some sort of pullback. Now, whether this is just a 1 day kind of pullback which we saw over here, and will it fall further, or do we get a sustainable pullback, that we need to see. But broadly, as I mentioned, I mean, the fact is that the Nifty 500 has bounced back from that important support level, which was equivalent to 25, 400, 300 kind of levels for the Nifty index. And over here, if you see, the RMI has gone back in bullish mode today. So over here, the minimum expectation would be that it ends up, completing the cycle, in which case you end up getting a pullback like this. And then for the entire pullback, you just sit back and assess what is happening, right? And so I'll just keep this Fibonacci retracement on my screen, so that it's there at the back of my mind to look at these levels, right? So this is what I will be thinking of in the near term. And of course, Bank Nifty also, there is kind of this expanding pattern that we are seeing. So need to see, again what it does over here. And basically for Bank Nifty, crossing above the averages will be important for it to continue its uptrend. Else, there is definitely a risk that is there now. I mean, this risk you should not undermine it, because now we are coming at a very very crucial point. Okay, and this is like a make or break zone. In this case, I was thinking that at some point of time we'll get a pullback. That is because all the things have got very extreme, and also. So see, I'll just try to tell you more logically, okay, and not what I feel. I mean, not a gut feeling type of thing. But you can see over here. So if you see the small cap index, the percentage of stocks with above the 200 SMA, that has gone to the oversold zone. Now see, historically what happens is that whenever we go through this, there are some pullbacks that you see in between and you end up seeing a correction. Okay, now in cases like this, you see what happens over here, right? It gets into this oversold zone, then we end up getting a pullback. And now just to show you, these are all meaningful pullbacks that we end up getting. Okay, I mean, if I have to see this, this is so let me show you in percentage terms so that you understand. Okay, this was like a 10-12% kind of pullback that we had seen, and then after it again cracked, right? So something of this sort can happen if this has to translate into a bigger correction. Okay, now there are see, there can be arguments for both the scenarios. Okay, so let's not get into that. Our job is to kind of try to predict what is the short term moves that are possible. So even if you see this percentage of stock with above 100 SMA, that has also gone to kind of 13 levels now. And let me take Nifty 500, which is more like a broad market, that is also around the 23 kind of levels. Okay, for 100, and I think for 200 it is bit around 30. So I'm not sure what happened next, but level wise, if I have to think logically, I would think that somewhere over here a short term bottom could be made. And now whether this translate into a deeper pullback, or and it again falls, or it's a start of new move, I don't know. Need to see, need to think. And as the up move also progress, we'll get to understand what is happening in the global markets and so on. And from there, we'll surely get some clue of that. Okay. So yeah, that's what broadly how I'm thinking at this point of time, where this becomes an important low. And mainly, if you see, there is a lot of stress frankly in the market. I mean, if you see the 20-day AD ratio, it is just hovering over here. Now there is a very small divergence that we are seeing over here, right? So of course today's data we have to put, and we of course need to see breadth also rising higher a bit. So that's where we can call a divergence between breadth and so on. But yeah, I mean, if you see in any way, we are a bit in a stress kind of levels, or you can say that depressed sort of levels. So let's see what happens. And I will be watching very very closely as to what they are doing. Okay, so let me just see. Okay, because I had this file updated till year, and it was around like 6 lakh, whatever this figure was showing. So let me just see what did they do really on Sunday. Okay, so FIs did a lot of shorting in basically call option. So they bought 1,72,000 contract, but they shorted 2,98,000 contract. Crazy. And they bought more puts also. So I think it's in call and put index where they had made an outsized sort of bet, and I think that has what resulted into that net position of call put options and so on to an next level altogether. So yeah, I mean, you can see the kind of shorting that they have done. Now I would tend to imagine that if there would be some level that they would be watching, beyond which they might end up covering their shorts. Now, whether it is this zone or averages, what they are looking out for, I don't know. But the point is that this low becomes a very, very important level on the downside. I think if this time this breaks on the downside, then I don't know. I mean, the only thing, so in Elliott wave, we call it as an extension. Then the only thing that I would expect is that there will be pullbacks from time to time, but it will keep falling. And we have already seen the monthly chart why this low somewhere where what the Nifty index has formed is an important low, right? And then it might even end up opening doors for much, much, much lower levels. So in that sense, we are at a very, very critical point, and let's see what happens in the next few days. So yeah, I mean, these are my thoughts at this point of time. I mean, if you'll have any questions, let's take it up. I mean, more or less, the things are in a very tricky situation. So let me, try and uh, 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 take up some questions. So Ashwini is saying that, Jai, currently uncertainty is so high, it is not easy to contemplate what will happen. Market change direction so fast. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree to that. But see, frankly, even I've been reading about it, and I think there is some progress on the US trade deal. Why I say that is because I think so. The Indian officials have not agreed or not commented anything, but it seems that US is trying to make a deal with India to buy Venezuelan oil, okay, which they have, of course, now taken control. So I'm not sure because of that if you end up getting some positive move. I don't know. So let's see about that. But but anyways, the market mood is so bad. I mean, is very bad at this point of time. So I'm just thinking that, see, market always does what no one expects, right? And at this point of time, data is also telling us that there is a bit of bearishness, not bit, but a lot of bearishness. And some important levels are also held at this point of time. So if those level hold, then I mean, I would expect that there should be some pullback in the near term. Now what happens next what happens in the next 1 or 2 weeks is very, very critical, okay, because a lot will depend on this move, that from where we can end up getting a clue as to what happens next. So that's why I'm precisely highlighting that the next 1 or 2 weeks will be very, very critical to watch and see how things unfold. Okay. Can give some. Okay. NCT says, RMI, when do you update monthly data? So all these are updated on a live basis only, NCTG. The only thing is that the confirmation that you get if you're watching weekly, the confirmation happens on a weekend. I mean, in Friday's trading session. And if you are doing, if you're looking at monthly RMI, so this might be in sell right now and so on. But you know, the actual position of it kind of is understood only on the last day of the month, because that's where you get that final closing. Deepak says, "Hi Jay, can you give your take on the market breadth and which tools in India charts are best to?" No, so see, all what we have put, Deepak ji, over here are of use for particular time frames. Okay, and I think we have done those webinar sessions in length. So 20 days useful more from a short to medium term kind of perspective. 40-day AD ratio is helpful from medium to long term kind of view, in fact more from a long term basis. So because we are seeing some sort of divergence in the 20 DMA as well, and some important support level is held in the near term. Maybe this calls for a short-term bounce, is how I would think. Then of course, you need all those confirmation of break on the hourly averages on the upside, then break of daily averages on the upside, and so on, to then predict it. But you always have to use those sentiment indicators with the combination of price action. You can't see any of them in isolation because both are complementary to each other. Okay, I mean, sometimes indicator might give you a prior hint of a turnaround, and sometimes you will see price action is losing momentum, and you will see a lot of divergence between indicator and price action. So that's why it should never be seen in standalone, but it should be seen together, and then you have to try to make sense as to what the market is trying to tell you. And I actually did not notice what was the option. I mean, PCR for Nifty, the raw PCR. So the raw PCR again yesterday had fallen to zero point 0.6 levels, which has moved higher to 1 now. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there were few indicators that were hinting towards that oversold zone. And like I showed you, the Nifty 500, I think I was watching that a little more closely as to what it does, because, it exactly kind of touched the previous, important support zone. And from there it bounced back. So let's see. I mean, it is interesting. Let's see what happens next. And in fact, if I'm not wrong, I think today VIX also fell. So yeah, VIX also fell by almost 10 percentage point or so. So yeah, some indications are there of maybe a short term bottom. Maybe I don't know if it is too early to call, but the problem is that the range is very big. I mean, in the past 2 or 3 days, we have almost seen a 400 points kind of range in a day. So yeah, but there are some indications that are there which kind of hints of a short term bottom, and today's positive daily close uh, is kind of furthermore reaffirming that a short term bottom could be in place. The only risk that I see, which the Nifty index has to clear, is breaking above the hourly averages. I think once it breaks above this and it sustains above that, then I'll be a lot more in a comfortable position to say that a further more pullback can come. But until then, the risk is that, unlike the past, that where we have seen a fall, pullback to averages, again a fall, pullback to averages, again a fall. I mean, over here it's whipsawed a bit, but again it fell. So yeah, I mean, that risk is there. Let's see how things unfold. But yeah, I mean, the most important point is also to look at the price action. And I think before the budget, we were kind of forming this flag pattern. So I had, I think, warned you all about this, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I mean, need to take things into consideration. And I think now this is a bit more encouraging, which especially you see it on the daily chart, which is like a bullish crossover. I mean, on the verge of bullish crossover and some divergence. So yeah, let's see. Any more questions? I've addressed all the questions which were there in the comment box. And it's already 30 minutes now. So if you'll have any questions, please let me know. Else we can wind up the session for today. Okay, I guess I don't see any questions. So let's wind up the session for today, and let's check what happens tomorrow. Okay. See you all at 5 p.m. tomorrow.